There's practice GAMSAT quizzes. It's good if you've studied science before. It won't be easy. Good luck.
I wanted to know what it's like to become a doctor. So in the doctor episode with Dr. Katelyn Tadd, she set me the challenge to do the GAMSAT. That's the med school entrance exam, because there are obvious issues with trying to be a work experience kid in a medical setting. Normally it's a 6-hour intense exam. I'm about to do 1.5 hours. This is the test, before the test, to become a med student. Now if you don't mind, quiet please. By the way, I'm not doing this challenge alone. I'm doing it with the support of the book Let's Not Be a Dick Today. You can buy it online right now through Amazon. You know what? Google it. Let's Not Be a Dick Today. It's a book that you will find extremely handy if you are surrounded by dicks in society, and it's an even better gift for those dicks. Let's not be a dick today. Now, we know the GAMSAT is a 6-hour exam that you have to sit if you want to get into med school, in Australia at least. I found a 1.5-hour practice exam. If you want to sit it too, you can go to this website, gamsat.co.uk/gamsat-test-centre/section-3. I'm actually a little bit worried about it because whilst I haven't clicked ahead, I haven't done any science since high school. And to give you an idea what Section 1 says, it says, these questions have been created to reflect the current standard of GAMSAT. To emulate the real timing of the test, you should aim to complete this section in 50 minutes. Okay, I'm going to sit this test. I'll take you for the journey. Then I'll get Dr. Katelyn Tadd back in so I can reveal the results, and we'll see if I have what it takes to become a doctor, or at least to take the first step and be a med student. Start the clock. I realise this is an audio platform, so you can't really tell what I'm actually doing. So we have 12 units. There's a big chunk of text, I guess, a stem, some background information, followed by 5 multiple choice questions. And with this particular question that I'm sort of scrolling through, there are diagrams. It looks kind of chemistry, so I'm a little bit worried. All right, now we can start this exam. The Kahn-Ingold pre-log rules define the priorities of groups within a molecule arrayed around a site of interest. What does that mean? Assign priorities, if 2 atoms, blah, 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 blah. Which is the best description of the stereo sentence in compound X? I don't know, C? Question 2 can be D, and question 3, A. Moving on. The primates are an important order of mammals, at least to us, because they include our own species. According to the passage, how many living species of hominids are there? I've got to read it again, because I wasn't paying attention. A, B, B, and they've introduced a few new names that wasn't in the stem. D. Unit 4, the respiratory quotient of an animal is given by this equation. I knew it already, but I am way out of my depth. Chemistry time! I remember in high school drawing like hexagons for molecules or something and then drawing a line inside. That's all I've got, a vague high school memory. I'm totally guessing these. A group of engineers wish to design a storage and distribution device for some fluid. Why the hell do doctors need to engineer some sort of fluid device? And they're not even doctors, not even med students yet. Why do they need to know any of this? A bicycle molecule? Oh no, bicyclic. This one seems helpful. Below is a trace from a cathode ray oscilloscope of the potential difference between across a healthy human heart when it beats a number of times. I should learn this in med school, I shouldn't have to pre-know it. And the last question looks to be about amino acids. And who says doctors don't learn about nutrition in school? They have to learn it before. And question 55, let's go B. Done! Wait, where's the finish button? It's up the top, yeah. Finish the test. Well, that was harder than I thought, but then again, I've finished it in probably record time. What's that? 10 minutes? Dr. Katelyn Tadd, thank you for joining me to reveal the results of the GAMSAT to see if I'm good enough to become a med student.
Thanks for having me back.
You shouldn't be thanking me, I don't think. From what you just heard in that montage there, how well do you think I went?
It sounds like it'll be based on quite random chance.
So if there was 4 multiple choice questions per question, you're saying maybe I should get around 25% at best?
Yeah, at best.
Okay. So when you've completed the GAMSAT, it gives you your score and then a summary. You know, for example, it says, well done, you made it through. The simulated test here has been written to represent what our tutors view to be the current level of difficulty of the GAMSAT. It goes on for maybe 200 or 300 words or so. And then at the end, it has like the answers you got right, the answers you got wrong, and it tells you what you might need to dive a little bit deeper in to revise, and you can go better next time. So, Katelyn, out of 55, I scored 13.
Speechless. So what are we talking percentage-wise? That's like...
So that is 23%. Worse than chance.
Worse than chance, with no undergrad science whatsoever.
If Lady Luck was on my side, maybe she would have me scoring like 75%. And I'm in. Just by fluke.
Well, by fluke, I guess the GAMSAT score is one thing, but the medical schools, I think, would want evidence of your undergrad degree.
Oh, you need to have an undergrad degree before you get into medical school?
Yes, you do, unless you're straight out of year 12.
Is there any chance I could get in with a score like that? 23%?
I would say little to none.
Unless I paid off someone at the uni.
Look, every medical school is slightly different in terms of their criteria. Not all of them need the GAMSAT. For postgraduate, you would need an undergraduate degree, so you'd have to have done some sciences of sorts beforehand. But I would encourage you, if GAMSAT's not your forte,
And it isn't, I tell you.
to have a look at each medical school's admissions criteria. Some require portfolios and other types of requirements.
So far, there's no way of escaping an undergrad degree, so I'm going to have to probably sit like a UMAT or something, as you're saying.
I fact-checked myself since last episode.
Thank you, because I was never going to do any fact-checking.
So the undergraduate admissions test is actually now called the UCAT. So that's changed in the last 15 years. The University Clinical Aptitude Test for Australia and New Zealand. So this is a 2-hour exam, but that would be for getting into undergrad med, which you'd have to be a year or two out of high school. I don't think any undergrad courses would take someone as late in their career as you might be. Yes, I'm calling you old.
Well, thank you for calling me old. I guess becoming a doctor is out of the question, at least for now, or I definitely have to apply myself before I can get anywhere. As of right now, on a particular job advertising platform, which I won't mention unless they sponsor the pod, there are 2,926 jobs being advertised. Just 100 of them are for interns, which I guess is the first step out of med school. How does one get one of those jobs?
Those job adverts would be for multiple positions with one job advert. So out of medical school, it would be a combination of your score, references and interviews. Some hospitals actually don't interview, or they might have an online interview. That also goes into a match algorithm. You'd put preferences as to which hospitals you'd like to work at, and that spits you out a job offer, hopefully.
Definitely won't spit me out a job offer. We've only obviously just scratched the surface of becoming a doctor, and medicine obviously might not be for me. Also, I feel like I'm too old to start a 15-year commitment, possibly a lot longer, with the amount I have to learn before I can start that 15-year commitment. But that's obviously just me. And in our chat in the previous episode, you mentioned that you were a little unsure if med was for you. Can you recommend for someone wanting to get into med what they might be able to do for them to dive a little bit deeper into the industry? And if it's potentially for them, maybe some direction?
Yeah, I'd encourage you to talk to people who are working in the field, and talk to people, if you can, in different settings. So whether that's in community clinics or hospitals, or in research or at universities, everyone will have slightly different perspectives. There's obviously pros and cons, and it involves a lot of sacrifice along the way. Most of us along the journey have questioned whether we made the right decision, as you're spending your weekends and after hours studying instead of spending time with your family into your early to mid 30s. It definitely takes a toll. So you want to be well informed. That said, there's obviously a lot of rewarding aspects to the career, and I would just encourage you to expose yourself.
And not in the way that might get you in trouble.
Expose yourself to the field, talk to people, get some different perspectives, and see how it aligns with your values and what you want to do with your life.
I wanted to ask you what might be next for you, but you've really just started in your career becoming a consultant psychiatrist. So perhaps the question for you is, if you weren't doing med, what career might you be doing? What interests you?
I still like to think in an alternative universe I'd be working in the humanities somehow, with languages or the arts. While studying for exams, I remember fantasizing about running a secondhand bookshop that was also a florist and also a coffee shop. And it just sounds lovely instead of spending your weekends in the library. But I think ultimately I enjoy spending time with people. So I think I would be doing something that involved interacting with people.
Okay, well, maybe in a subsequent episode we can get someone who owns a bookshop on, or somebody who interacts with people. I don't know, a mime. Not a great podcast. Anyway, thank you, Dr. Katelyn Tadd, for joining me, and thank you for dealing with the schmozzle that was the GAMSAT test. That was only like a 1.5 hour test, which I did in 10 minutes. And it's not even a good reflection of what the actual GAMSAT is. So thank you for that. Thank you for dealing with it. And thank you for wasting your time spending that with me right now.
Thanks for having me.
That's how I went. Thanks for listening. I'd love you to get involved. Be a guest on the pod, maybe tell me all about what you do. Even give me some ideas around questions or jobs to explore. You can get involved at workexperiencekid.com. And a quick mention of the book, Let's Not Be a Dick Today. Google it, buy it, use it as a coaster. I'm not your mum. I can't tell you what to do with it, but I can strongly encourage you to Google it and buy it. Let's not be a dick today.